Hello, my name is William, the Avid reader, and today I am reviewing Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, written in 1990. So they've made a movie of this book, and I must say the book is very good, but it's quite different from the movie. First of all, it is a lot more descriptive. It explains a lot of things, and such as character motivations, but it also amplifies character traits. But it also changes some things. For example, Hammond, you could call him an antagonist in this book, since he doesn't realize, he never accepts that the dinosaurs are a problem. He just thinks it's a mistake, a setback. He even accepts his... Okay, before I continue, this is a spoiler review, so don't watch this until you've read the book, or just, this is a spoiler. Spoilers from now ahead. Okay, so Hammond even accepts his own death to compies. Compies are an interesting thing, since a lot of things that happen in this book, actually, when put to movie versions, when put to film, they actually don't happen necessarily in the first movie. They happen in future movies. So, for example, the compies who appear in this book quite frequently, and they even kill an infant and later kill Hammond. They don't appear until Jurassic Park: The Lost World movie. But yeah, so it's a 450-page read, but letters are quite big compared to the page, so it reads quite fast, and it is written from many character perspectives, and the scenes are quite short. But then the chapters vary in wide lengths. But the chapters have also been inserted into parts of the book, which he calls iterations. And an interesting thing about these iterations is before, at the beginning of each iteration, there is a quote of Ian Malcolm. So, for example, the first quote of Ian Malcolm is, "At the earliest drawings of the fractal curve, few clues to the underlying mathematical structure will be seen." And Ian Malcolm explains quite well the ideas of chaos theory, and the theory basically explains that the park will fail inevitably, because you cannot predict how things will turn out. You cannot foresee certain possibilities. And he also distinguishes well the difference between bringing back to life an animal that has been killed because of deforestation or other human causes, which we already know a lot about, and bringing back an animal that has tens of millions of years difference in distance from us. And other characters, so you've got John Arnold, who's I like his character. He's a chain smoker, but he's also the engineer, one of the engineers, the one who keeps on Jurassic Park. And you've got his counterpart who programmed the whole Jurassic Park system, which is Dennis Nedry. And Nedry, we get to understand his motivations better in this book for stealing the embryos. We get to see early on in the book a scene of Dodgson, the one who gives him the technology to take the embryos. We see Dodgson in a board of director meeting. Since you have two factions that are trying to produce dinosaurs, you've got InGen, so that's where Hammond and Dr. Wu works. Then you've got Biosyn, where people like Dodgson work. And because Dennis Nedry was forced with threats of lawsuits to redo things at Jurassic Park, he became bitter, and he got himself a pretty sweet deal that if he stole some embryos for dachshund, then he would get well paid over $1 million in total eventually. But Nedry is the reason for the shutdown of Jurassic Park, since he shuts down all the electrical systems from the main power except the Velociraptor cages, or I'm not sure about that exactly. But anyway, he shuts down, and his plan is to bring the embryos to a ship that's waiting for him, and then come back and reactivate everything. But on his way, he gets lost, and he gets to see a Dilophosaurus. And the Dilophosaurus in this book is a lot bigger. It is 3 meters tall, and Nedry is a bit afraid of it directly compared to the movie, where he's quite kind of playful. It's played off as a joke in the movie, but in the book, so the Dilophosaurus spits 3 times on Nedry, first on his shirt, then on his neck, and he starts itching, and then it spit, and when he goes to his car and he looks back at the Dilophosaurus because he's afraid of it and he doesn't want to be attacked by it, well, it spits in his eyes, and it starts burning his eye sockets, and when he opens his eyes again, he can see, he's become blinded, and then something horrible happens to him. It is much more graphic, his death. His intestines are slashed open by the Dilophosaurus, and he holds his guts out, and he falls on the foot of the Dilophosaurus, and then it picks him up by his head, and he wishes for it all to end. So that's a much more gruesome end to Nedry, and then you can compare that end to the much more peaceful version of John Hammond's death, which is he gets bit by compies, but as they explain in the book, when compies have a type of poison, so it's like a drug, so you don't really feel anything when they start eating you. And then you can talk about how the Velociraptors work. So in this version of Jurassic Park, Muldoon, Robert Muldoon never gets killed by a Velociraptor. It's instead Dr. Henry Wu. And Dr. Henry Wu, he's a much more prevalent character in the book than in the movie. He opens the door, and then he's from one of the buildings. He gets snatched out by one of the raptors, and he gets pinned down on his back, and it starts opening his intestines and eating him alive while he's alive. So they've described earlier how Velociraptors they're very intelligent, and they also start eating you when you're alive. So you've got the contrast between the Tyrannosaur, because in this book they refer to them specifically as Tyrannosaur. They don't really call them T-Rexes. While the Tyrannosaur might be big, but it's a bit dumb, since if you don't move, it's not dangerous, while the Velociraptor is a very intelligent animal. It's compared to the chimpanzee. It's considered as one of the species who can coordinate plans. So the only other species that are mentioned that can do such things are chimpanzees, gorillas, and humans, of course. And this book made it clear for me that Velociraptors really are villains. They're monsters. They're the direct opposite of what Jurassic World portrays them as, because Jurassic World, they're cute or they're friendly. No, you've got they show 3 types of Velociraptors. So we've got the infants, and the infants can be the baby Velociraptors. Can be quite friendly to humans, and you can pet them and everything. and then you've got the bigger one, which is a big one, which are juveniles, and juveniles are still a bit aggressive, but similar to infants. And then once you've got the adult velociraptors, the adult velociraptor is very dangerous. Towards the 1/3 of the book through, at the beginning, when they're at the island, and they visit the pen that's holding in the raptors, and it's electric gates that are or it's electric walls that are holding in all the dinosaurs, and the raptors actually test them. They test them quite often. So they do a coordinated attack on the visitors, but the fences prevent them, the electric fences. And the dinosaurs, they start tearing down the fences once they're not electric. And a very different type of character, how is Donald Gennaro, how different he is from in the book and in the movie. In the movie, he is this scummy lawyer who's also a wimp who gets eaten by the tyrannosaur. And his book counterpart to that scared person is Ed Richards, who gets killed by another tyrannosaur. They call him the juvenile, and juvenile plays with his food. So it pins him down, and he lets him get up, pins him down, does that multiple times until it decides to eat him. While Gennaro is shown to be a multiple dimensional character. So you see him cower sometimes, but you also see him courage. So he actually fights off a velociraptor at one point. He also rides along with other characters to set the park up. So he was involved in tranquilizing the older tyrannosaur, for example. Speaking of the tyrannosaur, you've got this interesting scene. So they describe when Alan Grant and the two kids are on a raft, they're trying to get back, so they go on a raft on the river. But the tyrannosaur is right next there, and is sleeping, and then Lexi starts coughing, and it wakes up and it starts swimming towards them. And it's described that it's like a crocodile. But then you've got the juvenile tyrannosaur who comes and takes and starts munching on the earlier prey that the older tyrannosaurs had captured other dinosaur, because the dinosaurs start eating each other quite a lot. So, and we see this power game that or T-Rex chases away the younger one. And all the animals, all the dinosaurs are actually reproducing, because they explain that amphibians and frog DNA, it permits female to switch back to male animals, so they can reproduce sexually. And it's not only the velociraptors who do this in this book, it's multiple types of animals. And Dr. Henry, who is can't accept it initially, because Dr. Henry Wu is the guy who crafted all these dinosaurs. He designed them. So he had a huge budget from Hammond, but he did the work, and all of the work, and he hired some helpers, but he designed everything for the dinosaurs. He made them alive, and he can't believe initially that the dinosaurs are reproducing, because he made them all female. Another interesting thing is he made them depend on lysine, I think it is. So if the dinosaurs would escape, then they would die off. When speaking of lysine, the lysine thing, that in their food that they put the lysine gene, that they are dependent on it. While at the end of the book, you've got dinosaurs, it's implied that they escape. And they escape into the jungle of Costa Rica. and it has been shown that they move in a line, in a coordinated line attack, and they eat chickens, and they also eat some herby food, and then they go into the jungle. So the dinosaurs at the end are in the jungle, and at the beginning of the book you've got the Compys actually escape initially from the island, from Isla Nublar. And I know French, so I understood, oh, so it means island of clouds. And the Compys escape, and they start attacking humans, children or infants. And we've got this horrible scene where, or not, I'm not gonna, when I say horrible, I do not mean that it is badly written, but I mean like, when you imagine it, how horrible it must be to be there alive. Michael Crichton is very good at describing something horrifying, describing how bad things can get. And we get to see this at the beginning of the book, when you've got a nurse who goes into the nursery to see how to check up on the baby after a storm, and she thinks that she hears bird sounds, and birds in Latin America or in Costa Rica are viewed as a good omen for babies, for newborns. She checks up on the newborn, and she finds it being, its face being eaten off by Compys. And yes, it's incredible. This book is classed as science fiction. It is this close to be classed as a horror book because it's not specifically horror driven, but the death scenes, Reggie's death scene, Nedry's death scene especially, could be described as horror, and so could the Compy attacks be. Some of the Compy attacks be described, and the Velociraptors and the Tyrannosaurs, how they follow you and they try to kill you. It is described in horror fashion. And while Dr. Grant and the two kids are on the raft, one of the Tyrannosaurs, the older one, is stalking them. So he's going through the woods, following the little lake they're on rafting, but the trees are too thick for it to come through. But finally, when they come into open area, the Tyrannosaur is waiting for them. So yeah, so that is some of the things that happen in Jurassic Park, and its title is Jurassic Park, and then they've got it's not a subtitle, but it's a saying, that you put on books. In the future, there will be dinosaurs. And it's a very, very, very good book. I've just described some some things that happen, and yes, I've spoiled it, but if you've seen the movie, you already spoiled a large part of the book if you've seen the movies. So I would recommend you to read this book. This is my second favorite fiction book. I rank this as number 2 fiction book, Jurassic Park, and I rank it after 1984. So Michael Crichton, good job writing this book. This is 30 years old and it still holds up. And it's a lesson on how science fiction and how creating something can go horribly wrong. And it shows through this park on an island. So yes, so that was my review of Jurassic Park. This is my first fiction review. I hope you enjoyed this. So there will not be. What am I saying? I'm saying, but the book I'm reading now, next review, which may not even be this book which I'm reading now, but this book that I'm reading now by Hobsbawm. It's very long, so the next book I will review may take some time, but anyway, my name is William. I'm the average reader. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time.